whether I want to or not. I'm just noticing them buying houses, they're on the market like one day and they're under contract and they're waiving the home inspection. They're, you know, a lot of them are paying cash. And I've talked to several other realtors and brokers, and they're saying they're seeing similar trends. So as far as our business, I haven't seen anything. I've seen it pick up almost.
And I would agree. You know, it's interesting. You would think just the opposite, but we're getting more and more inquiries. The listings are, as I mentioned a while ago, listings are still rolling in. Sales contracts are being written. It's just that agents are being much more creative and much more cautious than usual.
No one wants to talk, Tom. Yeah. No one wants to talk today.
I guess not. I guess not.
It'll just be us.
Well,
yeah.
obviously, every one of you are using DigiSign. There's no question there, and programs such as SkySlope. Another program that we have explored and it seems to be taken on quite well is Real Scout. Are any of you using Real Scout or no?
No.
No.
What's Real Scout?
What is Real Scout?
Yeah.
It's just an advanced method of communication with your clients, be it showing properties through a virtual tour, being able to break it down in more detail, and being able to track the activity. It's just another program that's out there. It's quite common on the West Coast. We picked up on it here a while back, and it's something we're exploring and have tested, and seems to be working quite well. It's another minimal expense, but at the same time, it's a very, very good tool on a professional level for your clients to have available.
Hey, Damien, are you just trying to make us all feel bad, or what in the hell?
No. You like where I am? You like that?
Is that real, Damien?
I feel the sun beating on me right now. I have my corona.
Where are you at, Damien? I'm out of here.
They do
I'm a big green screen kind of guy. Hey,
background like that.
So just going over the list I see right now, just a couple of things you guys already mentioned too. So just starting from the top, I had recommended some free tools that agents can use. So, and I'll put it in the chat if anybody's here, as well as in the Facebook. So some things that I'm currently using right now is freeconferencecall.com. And that's accessible online, of course, as well as Crankwheel. I would recommend. And these tools that I'm talking about right now are tools that are allowed to do the things we're doing right now. And if your clients are, of course, remotely, you're able to share documents, like if we wanted to share a screen right now and discuss with them. So you can actually, believe it or not, without having to actually go in a home, as you guys already know, go from, I call it cradle to grave. So actually show the homes online virtually, and we can talk about that a little bit later too on some tools that are out there. But you know, we have we have what is the other one, ladies and gentlemen? Authentisign. Yeah. Once that's completed, we can actually go to these different tools like Zoom, like Join Me Now. I think Microsoft has something, as well as Google. Google has an application also that you can actually use to share documents. Another good tool right now that's free is Google Drive. So consider that. I mean, right now with the people I'm working with that's helping me with my business so-called team, I use Google Drive just to share a lot of my an Excel spreadsheet so they can fill in information and I can see it in real time. So those are some tools, I mean, we can actually use right now. And it's not a bad idea to actually learn a lot of these things, not only for now, but for later in the future when we get past on the other side, as I say.
Friendly reminder, if you're not talking, please mute yourself.
So I guess I'll ask then, what content do you guys know of or probably can give your agents in order to help them with their business? I know for me, for a fact, I'm big on video, and so promoting and not coming from what I call commission breath, and just giving great information out there to the public in regards to, and I'll give you an example, this buyer due diligence in today's market right now, and the way we are doing things and handling this COVID-19 right now. So I guess what recommendations or what suggestions you can give other agents out there for showing right now in our market? Oh, don't let me keep talking, because I will. Am I on mute?
No.
All right. So I guess suggestions I would make then is I've seen a lot of people doing this right now, which is great. Buyer consultations, buyer classes, video online using Zoom, seller consultations using Zoom, giving information to the public that is not creating fear, but facts. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on out there right now, but we don't want to have to be the ones to give all the bad and negative, right? And we need to learn to take care of ourselves before we can actually go out and take care of everyone else. So, even simple things. If I'm into health a little bit, right? So what I would do is go out there and not just talk about real estate, but just talk about things to eat, exercising, and all that happy good stuff. But just coming from a place of wanting to give to help your community. And these are suggestions. Do you guys have any recommendations of things that you can provide to the public, or you tell your agents that they can?
Nobody wants to talk, Damien.
Nobody wants to talk. No, it's just me.
Well, one
All
of
right.
the
ahead.
things we're asking our sellers to do is have all of the doors open on everything for a showing, so that there's less touching. I don't know if everyone else is doing that. I checked with my agents to see how well that's going.
Yeah, right now, every time I'm showing a home, I have a little baggie of individual gloves, Clorox wipes. Unfortunately, I don't have masks, but I'm suggesting my clients do have masks, and obviously recommending. Kim, you're mute. Your mic. Want to be muted. So Clorox wipes, gloves, asking the seller's agent to make sure, they have things that they can wipe down. And mask, I'm having a hard time finding any of those. So if anybody have any suggestion on where to find any mask out here, that would be awesome. So I can provide my clients.
Damien, some very good points. And, a short while ago, someone made a comment of being sure that your buyers are they've done all their homework and they are pre-approved, financially prepared. But we're beginning, obviously, with the listing itself, confirming that the seller and the listing agent are comfortable with showings, number one. And number two, we're obviously not putting clients in our vehicles or taking their own vehicle, meeting us at the property whenever possible. Yeah. Bringing your precautionary safety gear, such as you say, whether it be rubber gloves, booties, so forth. We're making sure that before we enter the home, we're providing whatever product we have available, be it a cloth or be it the liquid, sanitizing our hands before we even enter, keeping it with you in the home, making sure that arrangements are made ahead of time so all the lights are on, the closet doors are open, the kitchen cabinets, the pull-out drawers, things such as that are visible, so nothing needs to be handled or as minimal as possible. And then, of course, when you leave the property, normally we would ask that lights be turned off, leave it just like it is, allow the homeowner to come back and take care of things like that. as we leave the property. We're once again issuing our hand cleaner, our cloths, sanitizing, be sure that we're not taking any germs with us. Things such as this, and being very, very respectful of each other as agents on our showings, staying in communication. Let the agent know what kind of showing it was. Was it successful? Was there interest or not? That puts a comfort level back on the seller, because that suspicion is driving people nuts. So communication is extremely important. And ultimately narrowing down that list. The days of I'm going to go see 6 properties, it just may not work. Let's do the virtual. Let's look at everything as much as we can online first before we even go out. Do a drive-by. Check the home from the outside first. Check the area, which we can provide all of that now with technology. It might be that they get to the home and it's just the perfect home, but I don't care for what I see across the street or down the street. Well, check that out ahead of time. Try to minimize as much of those on-site visits as possible. But more than anything, what I'm stressing with my agents is this is a time that we need to be absolutely professional and kind, respectful with other agents, other offices. We need each other now more than ever. We need to work together in a positive way and try to communicate with each other on a level that's going to be successful.
What are you doing about kids?
No kids. No
I'm
kids.
sorry, I didn't hear that.
No kids.
What was that?
That's what we're doing about
What are
kids.
you doing about kids?
About kids? Trying to minimize, it's a touchy subject, but if you have clients you're going to be showing property to and they have young children, see if there isn't some chance that they have a caretaker, or if the children are of age, it can be responsible on their own, accountable. But try to minimize bringing the children with them if they can, if at all possible. It's just that much more of a risk, not only for them, but for the child and for the homeowner. And maybe it's one of those where I can go look at it now. My husband will be available later today or tomorrow. Let's wait till we can get the both of you together, minimize as many trips out and about as possible. But children are just that much added risk. Try to protect the children as much as we can.
I have a few questions for you guys. I have 3 main questions. One is, if you guys have listings that have renters in them, is there any sort of guideline that the landlord has as far as maybe not allowing people in there if for safety purposes or something like that, if the renters are not comfortable having the virus potentially in there? Has anyone run into that yet?
I have actually. We have houses in Florida where we have tenants, and somebody was not feeling well, so we had to delay an inspection for a couple of weeks. And then we had somebody in Billings, we were doing a refinance on the house, and the renter just freaked out, didn't want anyone in. And we really had to have the appraiser kind of talk through what the protocols were, and it made things easier. I think it's a tough situation, to be honest with you. I think if somebody's like freaking out and really upset about it, I don't know if I would push it. That's just me personally.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was like laws or guidelines as far as that goes. Another thing, are you guys pushing your listings so that we have more inventory and all of the above is being listed now, or are you guys waiting or recommending waiting until, let's say, mid-May for your listings?
Surprisingly for me, I'm actually pushing towards holding off a little bit, but the most recent listings, like I just put one on today, they want the homes on the market because they're seeing, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Inventory's market's not bad right now. I've been pretty darn busy, and compared to, I don't know, maybe a month ago when all this stuff started going on. And so I actually have sellers wanting to list, and most of my agents, I would see probably contract within 72 hours or less. So, obviously I just leave it up to the client, give them all their information that they need to make a well-informed decision, and go from there. That's how I'm seeing it myself.
Damien, I would agree with you. I think the thing that I'm seeing is there's just less inventory on the market. So sellers who are cautious about the virus, obviously, there's no need to push them to list right now. But on the other hand, there's just not as much competition in terms of houses. And the one thing I have seen an uptick in is withdrawn listings. We average about 5 a week, and lately it's been anywhere from 8 to 14 the last 3 weeks in terms of withdrawn. So a lot of sellers are not comfortable, apparently. And so if somebody is comfortable, especially vacant listing, get it listed. There's a lot of buyers out there, and I would say especially in the under 250 range. I'm seeing a lot of those first-time home buyers excited to get started. They think there's value, they think there's opportunity. So, you know, obviously up to the seller, but I don't think it's a bad time to list it all. Maybe on the higher end, you know, over 500, maybe you'd want to wait, but that's
And
just
then
my opinion.
Are all of you guys using the addendum or addendums of some sort that was either provided by the bar or provided by, let's say, your franchise as far as the virus goes? Or are you writing up your own that seem to pertain to you as far as the virus goes, or addressing it as it comes?
Well, Liz, I shared that one with you, remember? Engel and Volkers has a special addendum they're doing that talks about the virus. And I don't know, Shauna, I don't know if she wants to share it or not with everyone. But
sure, I can send it out. And it's mostly talks about the differentiation between if somebody is moving into state or somebody does contract the illness and becomes ill and has to go into quarantine for 15 days, that this automatically protects your buyer for those 15 days to push it out. So there's no miscommunication. We know that it's a valid concern that's going on, and it just kind of buffers everybody. And I think the good thing is it makes the selling agent have this conversation with their buyer as well, as far as these are the possibilities that could happen. And I know sometimes we get so busy, even though it's all going on around us, a lot of us are so busy, you forget to have that conversation. So I think it probes you to have that when you get an offer as well, just to maybe refresh them and bring it up again.
I will share that what I did is I've consulted with our Berkshire Legal on addendums, forms outside of our usual use, anything to do with the COVID-19. And they've cautioned me, what they have said is that your forms that you're accustomed to, that your agents are accustomed to, that they've been educated on, you want to continue using those as much as possible. They discourage me from incorporating anything outside of what we normally use, and in particular providing advice, information from your viewpoint on the COVID, because there is so much reliable, justifiable information out there. Provide them with the references, provide them with the resources where they can go to get information, give the basic facts of precautions and protection as best you can, but not to go into much detail on the virus itself, simply because if one of them becomes infected, whether it be one of your agents or one of your clients, is that you want to be very cautious of the liability, is what I've been told. Now, that's just coming from me. But the listings, to answer that question, I've encouraged the agents not to back off, to stay in very, very constant communication with their clients, whether it's a present client or a former client, but to be very strong in staying in contact with them. And interesting enough, that's resulted in some listings coming in the door. I'm not discouraging them. I feel that ultimately the responsibility is to the client, whether it's the one that wants to get their home sold or the one that's looking to buy. And with that, I'm also pushing very, very aggressively. Do your best to not let a contract fall apart because of the virus. Do your best to work it out, whether it's a need to extend dates, whether it's to be more flexible with the inspection, whether it's to be more flexible with the move-in, move-out dates so they're not on top of each other, that type of thing. But at this point in time, we've only had one transaction collapse because of the virus, thank God. But just being more flexible, more understanding.
And I think that's what our addendum was about, Tom. It more or less said to allow for some flexibility of, 15 days or more because of the virus. Because it is, a lot of the lenders have kind of had some glitches in their systems,
right,
banks and all that. So it kind of puts it out there that we're all going to have to work together to get these transactions closed.
Very good. I agree with you, Steph. I think that's very good. Thank you.
I have to say, like, everybody has been fabulous that I've worked with over the last couple weeks, and for you guys that I have worked with, you know, I'm working with Retha on one right now, a couple other people, and it's been great. Like, everybody's been very understanding and cooperative, and just kind of trying to work together to make it all fall into place. So thank you guys.
I think we have to remember not to ever write our own addendums or documents. That should always be done either through forms we already have or legal counsel. So just be careful of that. If you start writing too much into additional provisions and things to try to cover these issues, you might get yourself in trouble for trying to practice law.
You know, one other thing that I would mention is I've heard some negative things about the real estate industry in the community. And I think just us as brokers and our agents, just to really, of course, we want to be sensitive to what's happening and we don't want to be perceived as overly aggressive with trying to get things sold. But I also think we just need to let people know, hey, houses are still selling. I mean, we have really eager buyers out there, and now's a great time to list if you are wanting to sell your home. So I think, you know, having that unified presentation, not like, oh, who knows what's going to happen to the market. None of us know what's going to happen once we're through shutdown. I have a feeling that there are a lot of people who want to move here now. And I think probably that's going to irritate the native Montanans more than anything. But I think that's the unknown right now. Things are still moving. We're an essential service and we're here to provide a service for our clients. So I think just consider that when you're dealing with the public, how to let people know we're still in business and things are going just fine for now.
Very good point, Nancy. Perception is so important.
Agreed.
Two things I want to add. I was on a call this morning with Jamie, our legal counsel in the NMAR Association. And speaking of sellers that are coming into town to view homes, they are excluded from that two-week quarantine. So just wanted to pass that on. The second thing I wanted to pass on was just I'm encouraging my agents. You know, obviously this is not the time to really be calling your clients and saying, hey, what's going on, and ending with if you need any services or if I can help your clients or your family with any buying and selling homes. It's more of a conversation of how are you doing? How are things going? Coming from, you know, an empathy type of mode. So I'm sure you guys remember the acronym FORD, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams, a conversation that you can have with your clients to find out if you don't have anything to talk about, that those are 4 things you can at least bring up to see how your clients are doing. And when we come out of this on the other side, you'll be most remembered. So just something to keep in mind to talk to agents about.
That's a good point, Damien.
I had a quick point to make just on how I've gone to several different locations and can't find gloves, can't find the wipe things, can't find, clean. I found some cleaning products, but does anyone have a source that the realtors can order those things, or anyone have any ideas? And maybe we could put the MLS office could put that out that says, if you're trying to get these things for your listed homes, this might be a good place to order or get.
And I told Steph for gloves, KB Chemical has them, which is a great source. And I think a lot of people bypass and forget about them. But KB Chemical does carry the gloves and the non-latex and latex. And they're really great. She's fabulous. When I go in there, that's where I've been getting online. I know I got lucky one day and went into Target right when it opened, and they did just get done stocking Clorox wipes, but it's a give and take. I mean, I had to stop at Walmart last night for a couple things, and I looked down the cleaning aisle, which is scary. And one of the kids that was working there was fabulous. He was like, I just stocked some toilet paper if you want some. So I know KB Chemical is great. Target, if you can get there right when they open.
I picked up some yesterday from Euros.
Euros?
And somebody
Oh,
recommended that, and I went there and I picked up
okay.
some.
I saw that on your post. Yeah.
My agent, Michelle, had a great idea. So you know how you can get the little cleaning wipes for your glasses?
Right.
They're very inexpensive and they're alcohol based. And so that might be kind of a nice alternative to at least wipe down, you know, things
Handles.
after you touch them. So just a thought, if you go to an eye center, she said you can get a big bag of 500 or so. So just something that people maybe aren't thinking of. So I thought that was a good idea. I haven't done that yet, but just a suggestion from her.
You know, I have a million booties, so I haven't been able to find gloves, but I've been using those on my hands because they work just fine on your hands. I mean, you look stupid, but it makes for a fun joke with your clients. Everybody put your 4 paws, cover them up, and let's go, you know. So we laugh about it, and it does the trick.
Can I ask a question? Has anybody heard about what all the title companies are doing right now? So we can probably be abreast. Like, for example, I got a closing in Stevensville, Montana, and I have a closing in Red Lodge. And what they're doing is doing curbside type closings and or doing mail out. So locally, have you guys heard of anything and what the title companies are doing?
Stewart's doing in person. They have a partition between the closer and the clients. And they request that only those clients come in, no lenders, no realtors. And they're sanitizing everything every time someone's in there. I imagine they would, if somebody didn't want to come in, they would likely, you know, accommodate a curbside or whatever. But, you know, just I think they're trying to really minimize, and they're asking that we please don't try to come to closing. You know, I think that's important for the title companies want to minimize the number of people there if they're doing an in-person one.
First Montana is still allowing realtors to come, but they are very safe. And I've moved all my closings to First Montana Title because I've had several transactions that if the realtor had not been there, the deal would have fallen apart at the closing table. So they're being very, very safe. They're being very smart about it, and they're being very conscientious of providing top service. So that's why I'm going there.
So if somebody is, so I had a drive up closing in Roundup, which it was no problem because it was a cash transaction. So that was easy. But if somebody needs to explain the paperwork, I guess I'm just curious if the lender's not there and the title company's only doing mail away, how does that work? Has anybody experienced that? I've been concerned about that if there is a loan involved, especially with a first-time home buyer. So I haven't had that yet, but I just was curious if anyone else has.
We've had a couple, Nancy, that may help you in that particular aspect. Whereas before the closing even occurred, we've made sure that the buyer and the lender have communicated very, very closely. Questions were answered ahead of time. The lender actually has reviewed the documents, the financial documents with the buyer in detail between the two of them previous to the closing, so that when the closing occurred, it was just a smooth process. There wasn't any hiccups. There wasn't any, well, how did that work? And tell me again about the rate and all this type of thing. That was all addressed before. Tried to get as much as that out of the way before the actual closing date. And then many of our agents are not attending the closings. They may be a virtual, they may be on the phone or a conference type of a communication, but they're not sitting down at the table. They're trying to avoid as much as that presence as possible. But you know, it's something I'm saying with caution, because I would never dare try to even incorporate our plan into your closings, because that's a very personal process, as you say. Some closings, as we know, can go sideways at the table, and it's so important that the agent be there. So I'll have to leave that up to you personally. Very good point. I'd like to hear from some of you how it's going with your inspections. I know that we're taking precautions there too, but have you had any particular issues you want to throw out, or maybe some secrets in that process that could be helpful for our agents? Anyone?
You know,
I'll take that one on.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
You're fine. Go for it.
You know, I was just going to say I had an inspection, and the inspector was really great about outlining exactly what the protocol was. And I think that was really important. And he was very careful. There was an elderly gentleman who lives in the house, and he was very careful not to make contact with him. But then he told us that we could only come through the walkthrough, that we were not to touch anything. You know, he had it all lined out, which I really appreciated. So I think, you know, hopefully these inspectors have some guidelines as well. So it worked really well from my standpoint.
This is Lanissa. So, this is a controversial subject on home inspections anyways, because, you know, half the people think you should go, half of them don't. I don't go to my home inspections, but I prep my clients up front and tell them that this is their time to go with their home inspector and ask them questions, and not like during the whole process. But I also tell them, you know, you're going to get a super detailed report and be able to answer questions. And I make sure the home inspector, you know, is very good at communicating. Obviously, not all home inspectors can be left alone with your clients, but you know, the home inspectors are doing a really good job communicating with the sellers. But I also think the listing agents are doing a really good job communicating with their sellers as well as what to expect. And so when they get that report back, that's really the time for communication with everything. And I haven't had, you know, any problems with sellers being concerned about inspections. And I know some people have. And I also haven't had any problems with buyers being concerned with what's on the inspection. I think it's really just everything to do with everything we're talking about today is communication 100%, and making sure that we're talking to our clients and we're talking to the other real estate agents and everybody involved. I don't know if that helps, but I mean,
Sure.
I don't even know if my clients went this week to their walkthrough. They got their full color copy of everything, said, yep, I had one question about something that was a boilerplate comment. And I told him, I said, you know, I believe that's a boilerplate comment from the inspector, but I'd like you to call him and verify that that's what his intent was. And he did. He called and he said, yep, he said he recommends that on everyone. He just puts it in their standard. And we moved on. So I really just encourage you guys to communicate with all parties and make sure all their questions are answered and move forward. But I've been doing that way for like 3 years. And some people think it's a liability and deals fall apart. And I agree, there's some people you have to be there for. But in some cases, you'll talk to national speakers that think it's a release of liability. And now you're seeing that some inspectors won't even allow you to be there.
Very good points, Lanissa. And I think what you've said is just that. It's up to the broker or the agent. We should never be critical of each other if we appear or not at the inspection. That should be your decision in your practice. So very good points. Thank you.
I have a question on inspection. This is Shelley. You know, right now you don't know who's going to be doing inspections, I think, from day to day, or all that, how that's going to go. Are they taking longer because of all the requirements, those kinds of things? And I noticed some listings say they want to know who the inspector is when you give your offer. And I just can't do that all the time. I don't know how you guys handle that. I've given a list of, here's the people I send to, I send a list of all the affiliate inspectors to my clients and let them, you know, start making calls and things. So I haven't had to put an offer in yet on one of those, but it concerns me that I can't tell them who it's going to be, which I don't think I can most times anyways. But have you guys had any issues with that?
I had an agent call me and ask me about that the other day, but it really wasn't COVID related. And I told him, I said, you got to be careful putting that on there. I asked them what the deal was, and they said their seller had an issue with an inspector personally. And my advice to them was that they needed to get it in writing, because there's people out there that don't like certain inspectors and don't want them in the house. And that's why a couple of those are listed that way. So, I mean, if they ask you who it is, I would definitely ask them why.
Yeah, I just found it odd, and I don't think it's COVID related either. But I think it could kind of put a wrench in just even trying to put the deal together, when, especially now with COVID, you just don't know who you can get in there and how fast. So telling them up front is hard to do. I think that's really hard to do.
Probably something a little bit different here, a little bit odd news, but I feel as if I want to share it. And that is talking to a broker out in Seattle with Berkshire out there just the other day. And he said, Tom, I have some good news. And I said, oh, good. We can use good news. All of us can. He says, yeah. He said, Redfin out here is all but shut down. And I says, oh, thank you. I like hearing that. So, but they've furloughed about 50% of their staff. And in some areas, they've become very quiet. So we can't let that happen to us. This is our opportunity to stay at the top of our game and do the best we can.
Zillow's iBuyer program pulled out right when this all happened too, which is, I thought, kind of comical.
Well,
I talked to, go ahead, Tom.
Oh, no, fine, go ahead.
Well, I talked to a realtor in Boise, Idaho, who does business in Washington. And then I talked to a top producer in Washington around the Tacoma area. And they said that even though it's pretty hot and heavy there with the virus, their market still is on fire.
Yeah.
Which was really good to hear because a lot of people making offers were from that area, and there was one particular one that was contingent upon a house in Tacoma selling. So I was glad to hear that. It's like, that's about it.
That's about it. Mary, I think Julie, she may be muted. I would be very curious. I know that the board office, I know you guys are taking all the precautions and limiting hours. Anything from your perspective, Mary, as a CEO, that we can do to help you guys there at the office with our practice to ease some of the burden on you and your staff?
No, we're just trying to do as much as we can from home. We extended the fact that we will have 11 to 1 hours through the 26th, and we'll see how that goes. We're just all trying to get as much done. I work Tuesday and Wednesday, and I came in today. I have to work on MLS stuff for the meeting on Monday, but we're all just doing the best we can from home, trying to get everything done, and a lot of snarky people out there right now. Extremely snarky people.
Can you?
You mean agents, Mary, or?
I mean agents.
Okay.
Yes. Like, and that are pointing fingers at people openly, which I don't think is right. I don't think that's the right thing to do. If you have a complaint, file it. Don't go out on social media and complain about someone or something that, it's not right. You shouldn't be doing that. And it's happening all the time right now.
That's terrible.
Golden rule, ladies and gentlemen, golden rule.
I just want to commend our staff at the association because they have done a great job at reaching out to us while they're working at home and putting some ideas together that are helping us kind of stay in communication with each other. So I think we really need to thank them for that because this was a great idea, Damien and Shelley, for making it happen. And also just the other communication that we're getting out, the town tour that's going virtually. I think those are great things. It's probably made us a little bit more efficient in some areas also.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, it's going to bring us closer, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I agree with you, Deb. I've always promoted our association as being very strong and effective. And at times like this, it shows. And you guys, Mary, you and your staff are doing great. The virtual, your Wednesday morning tours, I've been observed a couple of those, and they're going quite well. Your attendance is increasing, so you've adapted well. Thank you.
I want to piggyback on that and say some of you guys already know I'm across the whole state on their MLSs and associations because of my position. And I will tell you right now, and I'm not just saying this because I belong to this board, you as staff, I got goosebumps right now. I will tell you right now, you guys as staff are doing such an amazing job right now handling everything that you guys are doing and keeping us, like many of you guys says, up to date. I've seen some boards. It's a hot freaking mess. And so I just want to say, just piggyback on that and say thank you so much. Staff, really appreciate you.
You bet.
Welcome.
Agreed. Yeah. Thanks, Mary. And I know we're switching agents, so it's been kind of a hectic thing for us, and we appreciate all you've done for us, because I know right now it's hard, and you know, some people have kids home, it's a spouse home. We know how that gets. No, just joking. But but we want to say we want to say thank you, because I know your staff has been working on a lot of transition for us, and it's been phenomenal, the response and everything. So thank you.
You bet.
Well, I think, Damien, thank you for suggesting this, Shelley, for putting it together. I think very, very importantly, right now, it's important that we communicate with each other, stay in contact, support each other, speak positive of the industry, because the public is watching. And for some of those businesses that are non-essential, they're suffering. And there's going to be some envy. And real estate is going to be one of those, as we always have been. They think that we have this luxury job with part-time and making tremendous money, and we all know that's not the case whatsoever. So we need to maintain an image of being professionals and being kind to each other, supportive, and when this settles down, we're going to jump right back on and be the professionals that we are.
I would like to make a recommendation, and probably in the next 2 weeks, we can probably come together again. I think things will be changing again after the governor's announcement, if this is going to be extended or not. So I think we should probably come together again in the next 2 weeks.
Just one other thing I'd mention too is if anybody hears agents, like what Kelly just said, put that kind of stuff on Facebook, social media, or in the public, please let that person's broker know, because I don't think any of us on this call want that kind of reputation in the community. So I just, we can report them to Mary, but I would just say if you hear anything on any of my agents, let me know, and I'll do the same for you guys.
Agreed. Yeah.
Thank you, Shelley.
All right, anything else, you guys? Any last closing comments or questions?
I got to say something. So Nancy, thanks for saying that. And I've been noticing across the state on some social media platforms, just to be careful on how you not communicate, but express your opinions, if it's politically or if it's COVID related. For example, I've seen some things that talking about this disease and really blaming the Asian community. And I guess what I'm trying to say, just be very careful in what you say, how you say it, and just try and keep a lot of that stuff out of social media, especially for you as realtors and brokers, because it'll definitely come back to you. So I guess what I'm trying to say is stay at home with diversity. Be very careful. And for the last point, this is a great time to educate yourselves as brokers and as agents if you're staying home to take designations and classes. So educate yourself, continue doing education, and just let's come together.
Very good.
Good idea.
This is great. I hope we can continue to do these. I mean, it's kind of nice not to have to drive down, although it's fun seeing you guys in person too, but this is a great way to connect.
Absolutely.
Well, and I can coordinate another time if we want to look in maybe a couple weeks, a little closer to the 24th. I will get that going again. And then I did record this, so I will, I'll get that posted to either the Facebook page. We can put it up on Message of the Day as well. So if you have other people that you want to share it with, it'll be available to view later.
Great. Thank you, Shelley.
So, yeah, thanks everyone for joining us and for your participation and feedback.
See you later.
Goodbye.
Thank you.